Good morning, dear. How are you? Welcome in Social Studies class. Today we are going to read very interesting topic. Before starting that, I have some questions for you. All right? Do you feel happy when you receive a card on your birthday? Yes, very good. Now, pick the odd one out. Telephone, bus, letter, email, SMS. Super? Answer is bus. Among all the items mentioned, you will notice that one of the items is different from the other as it is used to travel from one place to another, while the remaining items telephone, letter, email, and SMS are used to share thoughts and feelings or communicate with people around us. Okay, how do you tell your friends what you are thinking? By talking to them, of course, and when they are not near you, maybe you speak to them over the telephone. Letting someone know what you think, feel, or know is communicating. We communicate in a number of ways. So, students, today's chapter is communication, chapter number 7. Class, now tell me why we need to communicate. Yes, we need to communicate in order to understand each other better, to stay connected, send information, and so on. Just remember, we live in a society, and to maintain our social contact, we send and receive messages. Alright? When we share or exchange our thoughts and feelings with each others, it is called communication. The things which we use to communicate are called means of communication, and the different ways of sending and receiving information are called means of communication. Did you know? Before the invention of writing, early humans communicated through sign language or drawing on the walls of the caves. Later, as people learned to write, they started sending written messages. For sending messages, they used pigeons and special persons called messengers from one place to another. Slowly, the means of communication developed, and today we have multiple means of communication such as letters, telephone, fax, emails, mobile phones, TV, newspaper, radio, and so on. Alright, let's see what these different ways are. Okay, first is letters. We use postcards, inland letter cards, and envelopes to send letters to people in our country. When we send a letter to someone in another country, we use an aerogram or an envelope. We use envelopes to send cards as well. Okay, so tell me one thing. In which country do we live? Yes, India. So if we want to send letters in our country, we will use the postcards, inland letters, and envelopes. Okay. And if we want to send letters abroad, means in another country, we will use aerogram. And this aerogram will be sent by airmail. We also called air letter to aerogram. Okay. When we send a letter, we must make sure it has a stamp of the right value. Value means price or cost. And what is stamp and why we use it? Stamp is also known as postage stamp, a piece of paper of specified price indicating the amount we paid for a letter or a parcel. Now, one question is, what happens we post a letter without a stamp? Hmm? In this situation, there are two options. First is letter will be returned to sender if his or her address is mentioned. Sender means a person who sends a letter. And second is receiver will be asked to pay for the letter. Receiver means a person who receives a letter. Alright. Now come to the chapter. We must also write the address and the PIN. PIN is postal index number code clearly. Okay. Every big post office in our country has its own 6-digit PIN code. When we write the PIN code, it becomes easy for the people at our post office to send the letter to the right post office. Alright? What happens to letters after we post them? Now, a journey of a letter is shown here, that how is your letter delivered to its destination or the place where you want to send it. Okay. A postman collects them from letter boxes and takes them to the nearest post office. All the letters are sorted in the post office according to where they have to go. Then they are put into bags and sent to railway stations or airports in postal vans. Letters that come to a town by train or plane are taken to post offices by postal vans. From there, postmen carry the letters to people's houses. Okay? When we want a letter to reach someone very quickly, we can send it by speed post. We can also send it through a courier. You listen about courier? Huh? A courier is a person or a company that takes letters and parcels from one place to another. To send a letter by speed post, we have to go to a post office. To send one by courier, we can go to any office that offers courier services. Alright? Letters may take a few days to reach even by speed post or courier. So these days people prefer to use phones or computers to send messages. Such messages reach much faster in a few seconds only. Now our next means of communication is telephone and fax. Okay. Speaking on the telephone is the quickest way of communicating. We can immediately send or receive messages and talk to our friends and relatives using a telephone. Our voice is carried along telephone wires to the person on the other side of the line. Phones that are connected to wires are called landline phones. Cell phones or mobile phones are not connected to wires. Listen, we can talk to people living in our city, other cities, and states or other countries over the telephone. We can take them means mobile phones. We can take mobile phones anywhere and we can use them to send messages quickly and easily through the short message service SMS. SMS is the short form of short message service. Okay. Did you know that the first electric telephone was made by Alexander Graham Bell? And do you know how the telephone has developed? Look this. These are early telephones and these phones were used during your great grandparents' time. Now, after some time we have telephone like this. This is a dial phone and used during your grandparents' time. Then cordless phone, mobile phones. Okay, some of these phones are used by your parents. And finally, we got our modern phone, that is smartphone. You already know about this because you all are using this smartphone. Now come to the next means of communication. We can also send messages quickly by fax. A fax machine copies messages and even pictures and sends them along telephone lines. The fax machine at the other end of the line prints these out. Now listen. The message sent through a fax machine is received in a printed form, which is the exact copy of the sent message. Okay? Now next is computer and smartphone. Computers have made communicating with people a lot easier. We can use them to send emails to people living anywhere in the world. Emails means electronic mails. Emails are like a letters, but it is something that you write on computer, even with your mobile phones, and it is faster because typing and sending take much less time than writing and posting. It is more environmental friendly because we don't need a paper, and it also saves our money because it mostly free. Okay? Now you understood by emails? Alright. We can even send photographs, voice recordings, and videos with an email. We usually send emails through the internet. The internet or the net is a worldwide system of connected computers. We can learn about sports, films, music, art, books, places, and many other things on the internet. These days, many mobile phones work like small computers. Such phones are called smartphones. We can use these phones to connect to the internet. We can use computers and smartphones to make video calls. A video call allows us to see the person we are talking to. Okay. Now next means of communication is mass communication. Sending a message to a large number of people is called mass communication. Okay? Newspapers, radio, and television are some means of mass communication. People living in different areas get to read the same news through newspapers. They also get to hear the news on the radio and watch it on television. People can listen to music on the radio. They can watch cartoons, films, or matches on television. During storms and floods, important messages are sent out through the radio and television. Okay? Now, this is all about communication. So, please read the chapter carefully and try to fill the bookwork. Till then, bye. Take care.